Okay, welcome back. So in this video, I want us to complete our graceful shutdown feature. So the situation is I want to call the shutdown function. And the shutdown function is responsible for doing a graceful shutdown. Okay, and the way it works, when we call it, it returns an error, and that error could either be nil or non-nil. If the error is nil, then the graceful shutdown completed correctly. If it's not nil, then there was an error with the shutdown. It was not successful. I will be coming back to this shutdown function documentation in a few. But for now, we need a way for the shutdown function, because the shutdown function will be included in our background Go routine. And so how do we allow a Go routine to communicate with our serve function? Well, we create a channel. Okay, and so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a channel that will allow the Go routine to communicate back to the serve function. Okay, so the shutdown function should return its error to this channel. So this channel, and let's call this channel shutdown error, and this channel will, this variable of course will be a channel. So I will say make, and it will be chan, and this type of channel is a channel that accepts an error. Okay, great. So now we have set up a means of allowing the Go routine to communicate back. Alright, so we have that. Let's go to the Go routine and let's actually implement the shutdown, the graceful shutdown. Let's change this log message, and it's no longer catching a signal. We want to say that we are initiating the shutdown process, and so we'll say shutting down server. Okay, so when we intercept the signal, then we can print out that we are shutting down the server. So we are starting the process of shutting down the server. So after we have printed that or logged that message, we now need to start shutting down the server. And of course, we will not be exiting, so we don't need this anymore. We will be using the shutdown function. And the shutdown function requires a context. Okay, specifically, we need to specify how long the server should wait for the tasks that have not yet completed before it actually shuts down. So let's create a context to specify that time. So we're going to create a context with a 20 seconds, or we might even, let's say 30 seconds. Yeah, let's leave that 20. We'll change it later when testing. 20-second timeout. Okay, so of course, if you recall, to create a context, we usually give the variable name ctx, and we have a cancel function, and we will call the context package and with timeout. And so we need to provide a parent context. Usually it's context that background, and we must specify a time. So let's say 20 seconds. So 20 times time that second. Okay, so that's our context. Let's not forget to defer the calling of cancel so that the context can be cleaned up and its resources recycled. So we have the context. So now we can call the shutdown function. So let's call the shutdown function. Okay, and we need to pass in the context. So this shutdown function, if you recall, it returns an error. And so we are inside of this background Go routine. So we need access to that error. And of course, the way to get access to that error is to have the shutdown function write it to the channel. And so we will do that. We will say shutdown error srv.shutdown. So this is the function shutdown. We pass it ctx, right? It requires a context. Okay. So so this is what our background Go routine does. It waits for the signal. When it intercepts that signal, meaning we specify we want to shut down the server, then that is written to the channel quit, to the variable s. So quit writes it to s. We use s to print this message, and of course which signal it is. And once we know that the signal has been captured and we want to shut down, we initiate the shutdown process. We create a context and we call the shutdown function with that context. Now this line of code will block, of course, right? Because shutdown will be waiting until we actually specify we want to shut down the server. And so when you shut down the server, this gets done, right? All of what I was talking about gets done. Okay, so finally, after 20 seconds, shutdown will ensure that our server gets shut down. And after that process has been completed, the shutdown function will return the error code. So if everything went well and the shutdown was successful, then shutdown will return nil. So shutdown error will have nil. But if there was some error and the shutdown failed, the graceful shutdown failed, then shutdown error will have some non-nil error code. Okay, great. So we can now come out here, and keep in mind this is running in the background, right? All it's doing is waiting for us to initiate shutdown, and once we do, this kicks into action. Okay, so outside now in our serve function, we want to check if the shutdown process has been initiated. Okay, so let's say we press Ctrl C. How do we know that the shutdown process has been initiated? All right, well, we can check. So let's check if the shutdown process has been initiated. Okay, if we had access to inside the background Go routine, then of course we could find out, right? But we don't have access to this Go routine. However, we do know that when shutdown has been initiated, the listen and serve function immediately returns this error code. Alright? And of course, it doesn't shut down. It waits for the 20 seconds before the shutdown happens. So let's test to see if this code has been returned. And if it is, then we know that the shutdown has started, because only when we see that error code is shutdown initiated. So let's come here. Okay, so let's move that. So we start the server, and then down here we will check to see if the server is being shut down, and that's easy enough. We know that SRV return listen and serve returns error. So let's save that. Okay, have I already declared error? Let's see. Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't used it. All right, so let's check. So if, and I'm gonna say not. If not, errors that is. So if the error is not http.error server closed, so if this was not the type of error, then something went wrong. I expect for this error to be the one passed back by listen and serve. So if it's not, then I know the shutdown process had some problem. Alright, and so it failed. So I'm just gonna return the error. Okay. Okay, now if we actually got back the error server closed error code, then we know that the shutdown process has been initiated, because that's what we're being told. Alright, when shutdown is called, listen and serve immediately returns error serve closed. So if we get here on line 60, then it means that yes, we did get the error served closed. And what does that mean? It means that we can now wait for a shutdown to return our error, notifying us that the shutdown has been completed successfully or not. So let's block and wait. Well, let's block, that means wait, for notification from the shutdown function. Okay, so we're going to do, we're going to write to the error variable what is sent to the channel. And remember, line 61 will only get executed if something actually gets written to the channel. Alright, so let me say that again. Line 61 will only execute when shutdown error, the channel, has something written to it. And so once something is written to it, it can then in turn write that thing to the error variable. Okay? And of course, that all depends here. All right. When shutdown is finished, whatever error it has will be written to the channel. And so once it's written to the channel, outside, of course, in serve, we will not have access to it. And so we will have to check to see if it was a successful shutdown or not. So if error is not nil, then it was not a successful shutdown. So we will return error. However, if we skip that, and that means it was a successful shutdown, I can log that and say that Graceful Shutdown was successful. Okay, and that's easy enough. I can just, let's take this. Okay. Let's remove this. And I'm going to say something like server shutdown or stop the server. So stop server. Okay. If we get here, we are sure that the server was shut down successfully. Then of course, we will simply keep the address of the server. Alright. Now once we have logged that message, then we can leave the serve function. But the serve function needs to return an error, so we will return nil, meaning everything went well. Okay, let's start our server just to ensure that we didn't break anything. Alright, we didn't break anything. Okay, so of course notice we're getting messages, stop server. Alright. So how can we test this? Well, let's simulate a handler taking too long or not being completed when we issue the shutdown. So I'm going to go to health check and I will simulate a delay. So simulate a delay. Right? Easy enough. All I'm going to do is before we write back the JSON response, I will sleep. Okay. And let's sleep for 4 seconds. No. Okay. So I will simulate time that's, well, the health check handler taking, I guess, too long. So when I issue the shutdown by hitting Control C, then because we have a 20-second buffer, then you will notice that we will see the message telling us that the shutdown has started. But then we will still have to wait to get the response. Alright, so even though we issued the shutdown, the response will still be given to us after 4 seconds. So let's save this and let's have a look at that. So if I start my server, okay, and now if I issue a request to health check, and after I issue the request, I immediately issue the kill, the sig term. Then what I expect is for me to be told that the server is shutting down. And then 4 seconds later, I will see my response before finally the server telling me that the server has stopped. Okay, so let's give this a go. Let's come here. Okay, and so it told me it's shutting down, and then it later told me that it stopped. And if I come back here, you'll notice that the response was given. Alright, so we waited for the response to be written, and then we completed the shutdown. Okay, so that takes care of that. I hope this lesson made sense. It's quite a bit. However, the key thing is to recognize the pattern. Alright, and so you'll notice that every time we want to wait for some signal, or we want to check for some signal, we will be using our background Go routine. And of course, for Go routines to communicate, we need to have channels set up. Okay, that's it. I will see. This is the end of this section on Graceful Shutdown. So in the next section, we will move to creating users for our API. So we want to be able to register users who will want to use our API. So I'll see you in that upcoming section or unit.